This is October 1st, 2003. We're at the eastern adits on the Ima Mine. Getting to the adits on the south side of the creek, which is the main target for the day, requires crossing Patterson Creek. And here Dave Leppert is crossing the creek on a log to look at a couple of adits on the far eastern side. Notice the large amount of vegetation around the creek in this area, which is kind of upstream of the mill site. Clearly the vegetation is quite healthy. Dave has crossed Patterson Creek and is going up the talus slope to Adit A on the south side of the creek, east of the main mill site. It appears that the adit is partially open, and that there are a number of large rocks and collapsed timbers on top of the portal. Dave is now at Adit A, and you can see there's at least a 3 foot or 4 foot high opening.
About 10 feet.
The adit goes in approximately 10 feet. Again, Dave is standing right in front of the open Adit A on the south side of Patterson Creek at the Ima Mine. To get a GPS reading at Adit A. Dave continued to climb up and find an old road to get to Adit B on the south side. We're still quite a ways east of the actual mill site. The adit is quite a ways up the hill, approximately 300 or 400 feet, and the adit is open. It's very difficult to see, but from this angle, but you could barely see behind Dave's head a small opening. We're at the east end of the Ima Mine property, Lemhi County, looking almost due west down the canyon of Patterson Creek. You can see that the south side of the canyon is still in shadows. Got a panoramic view moving slowly to the north, where you can see the main workings of the mine. They include a octagonal wooden water tank, a sizable dump with a metal building on top of it, which is visible in approximately the center of the screen, a wooden remnant of a tram which was used to get the ore down to the mill site, which is directly below in the canyon bottom. As we go around to the north and closer, we see the base of the road which goes up to the upper workings on the north side. And we can also see, going around, a few smaller dumps and road cuts. I'm looking due north now. and continuing all the way around so that we're looking now back up the canyon, looking east up Patterson Creek into the Forest Service property. And we're starting to look actually up at Ima Creek into the sun and a hunter's truck. Here's a closer view following the road to the main Ima adits up. Starting from the quote landfill site, the road goes up and around, across over the talus, and climbs slowly below the wooden water tank there. You can see the road cuts. It then switches back and reaches below that prominent metal shed which sits on the main upper adit. I think we called it 5. There is another upper adit above it which is out of view from this viewpoint. This is Dave Leppert standing in front of Adit C, the lower adit on the south side dump directly across from the mill site at the Ima Mine. It's early afternoon, October 1st, 2003. The adit is caved about 40 feet in, but as you can see it's timbered and the first 20 feet or so are in good shape. Let's see if we can see inside. Not real well. I think you can kind of see there. I'm going to zoom back out and then panorama view over to the rest of the south side dump. The very large waste dump on the south side of Patterson Creek, we're looking west now, is at least 200 feet long and approximately 60 feet wide and at least 10 to 30 feet in thickness. It stands above Patterson Creek with the toe of the dump right along the creek, and the creek has actually been incised into the waste dump, which used to continue from the mill site over to this Adit C. We've now switched to looking east up Patterson Creek, just to give you a panoramic view of the site. Another look at Adit C. Notice also the pile of wind-blown tailings, the fine sand-looking light-colored material to the left of the adit, as well as the wooden cribbing which is holding the talus slope in place. As we go around to the west, there are the remnants of a rail car system which hauled the ore and the waste material out to the edge of the dump. The dump is actually in 2 levels, the main level being the lower level. Behind it, let's see if we can zoom in a bit, on the far side of the dump is the first edge of tailings pile number 1. Continuing to the left, you can see how far the creek is incised into the waste dumps which extend on either side of the road. I'm standing on the south side of Patterson Creek near the wood building on the east end of the dump, looking at water draining into the creek from unknown source at the swampy area under the road on the north side of the creek. As I move the camera to the right, you can see the iron cemented alluvium and disturbed ground, and as well there's another water entry into the creek, an old pipe just a short ways upstream. Concrete foundations are visible, probably very old ones farther up the creek. Continuing around to look at this wooden building, which is empty inside. The function is not clear. It could have been an outhouse, though there's no sign of that. There's nothing inside. The structure is not real safe. Here's a view of the west edge of the waste dump on the south side of Patterson Creek, looking out to tailings pile number 1. Dave Leppert standing there for scale. We're looking to the directly west down the canyon. Panning slowly to the north. Creek comes into view. And then the waste dump below the road on the north side of the creek. It's quite sulfidic, judging by yellow iron stain, yellow-brown iron stain. That continues all the way up to the mill site. The slag pile is the dark material. It's draped over the edge of the waste dump, extending down into the creek. Caved adit is behind the mill site, which was mapped previously, and you can see the chimney on this side of the dump and a pile of debris, which I'll zoom in on a little bit. Nothing particularly of note in the debris. The adit C, the lower adit on the south side, is behind. You can barely see the portal. It was caved about 30 feet in. Here we have a really good view of the Ima mill site, looking down just as somebody is coming to visit the area. You can see the blue Jeep IGS vehicle in the foreground on the road. Here comes a truck and trailer. Good view of the mill hoppers, 4 bins. Adit 5, which is caved, is up above the blue Jeep. Going up around the tree, we also get a pretty good view of an intermediate adit level between adit 3 and adit 5, which was not visited in the initial survey. You can also see the power lines down there where the truck is now coming into view. Looks like the transformers there have been removed as per IGS recommendation on the first survey. Except one, still there. Here we are on the south side of Patterson Creek, looking down at adit C, the brick chimney, the mill site, adit 5, going up to the unvisited adit. You can see the main road with the water tank on it. Adit 3, the road switches back to adit 1 or 2, and the uppermost adit, which was not visited. I'm going to zoom in for a look at the tram system and that uppermost adit. You can see there's a large dump on the adit with a building, portal. Some visitors who have been underground at the Ima that we met today said that that upper adit is wide open, and they have indeed gone quite a ways underground apparently on a number of these levels. The gentleman's father used to mine down here. So some people do go in. There's a good view of the buildings on that dump that was visited a couple of years ago. The water tank, octagonal wooden water tank. Adit 3, which is caved on that road. You can see that the remnants of the tram car bed go down, and the main haulage tunnel is out of sight in the bushes down below. Panning back along the main road on Patterson Creek to the mill site. We have a fine view of the mill site. The wooden bins and the concentrates are located in front of the concrete wall that bisects the mill foundation and that dark pile of material. Another view of the creek where it's incised the dumps. Here's Dave's ready to check out Adit D. He's not going underground, but he could walk right in if he wanted to because the adit is wide open. It's dug in on a great big quartz vein, which you can actually see through the back of the building up above. If you look through the windows and behind it, that big outcrop is all a big white quartz vein. It's almost 10 feet wide up there. Here's a view looking inside of Adit D. The roof timbers are broken and splintered, and some of the large logs that have been in to reinforce them are bent down under their own weight. Going inside, it's too dark to see anything. Better view of the back of the adit. It goes in at least 60 feet.
There's good breeze coming out.
And there's a good cool breeze coming out, but it's probably not a good idea to go in. View looking at the stairs leading up to the building over Adit D, and the rail system that comes out, and the old rail bed tram that went down the hill to the mill site, which we can see across the valley again. Zooming in slowly. A good view looking right down on the mill. Main ore bin and back, a large cylinder. Auxiliary metal ore bin on the right. Piles of concentrate on the the front half of the building. The dark piles just to the left of center. The dark item against that median wall is a wooden concentrate bin, which had heavy metals, mercury, some really high values, seeing as how they were concentrates. The black pile in the middle is mostly slag, the majority of which, of course, was dumped across the road towards the creek. Still at the Ima Mine, I'm standing on the east edge of the mill foundation, looking back at the south side, starting from the east. There's a wooden building next to the creek. You can see the road going to the upper adits in the back, trail up across the talus. Swinging around, there's Adit C, the lowermost adit on the south side dump, with the chimney behind it. Going uphill, following that wooden track. Can't quite see the upper adit is behind a tree from here, so we'll come down. Let's just zoom in a bit on that upper adit, or excuse me, the lower adit. But Zoom back out. You get the full extent. There's the dump with the rail line on top, continuing around to the west. All of that is waste dump. At the far end of the waste dump, which is sort of grayish in color, there's about a 20-30 foot drop down to the first tailings pile in the creek, and you can see the mill foundation in front. We're looking down Patterson Creek to the west. It's a close-up of the mill foundation, looking directly at the wooden ore bins and the slag pile, the wooden concentrate piles. Just another look at the adits on the south side from the lower adit C up the old tram line to the building with adit D. It's kind of just to the left of that tree. There it is with a zoom on it. It gives you some perspective on things.